The altar boys help lead the procession at St. Kunigunda Church. The organ plays as Mass begins. For a moment, the sexual abuse scandal in the church has taken a back seat, but not for long. Father Josef Dobenek addresses the topic in his sermon.
What are we supposed to hope for? When the church lurches from one crisis to the next, and new reports of abuse keep coming out. Lay people are not to blame for the current loss of trust in the church. It's the clergy who are at fault, all the way to the very top.
Josef Dobenek doesn't mince his words, and that sets him apart from many of his fellow clergymen. He regularly meets with his parishioners to talk, but even his fiery sermons haven't saved his parish from the mounting crisis. Dozens of Catholics in Utenreuth are leaving the church, striking a blow to the parish's finances.
It's happening in all age groups. I had an older man here between 70 and 80 years old, and he came to me himself to tell me why he was leaving. And the reason was, of course, he had enough of everything that was going on, the abuse cases and the entire cover-up.
Some active members of the church here can't understand that frustration, but others believe the church is in the midst of an existential crisis.
What really bothers me in this current situation is the institution of the church itself. When I think about how insular and shielded the Vatican and Rome is, how they're able to defy the secular judicial system and set up artificial boundaries, they're protecting their own people, but they end up destroying the dignity of others.
I sometimes think there are people who use it as an excuse to stop paying their church taxes, which they didn't want to pay anyway. But people should think before making a rash decision, because there's a lot of good in the church too. We can testify to that here in our parish.
For example, the church band in Utenreuth is very popular with its young members. They perform contemporary music during services. It's just one of the parish's many youth projects. The abuse scandal hasn't shaken their faith.
Everyone makes mistakes, even the church. The important thing is that the church admits what happened. It's not an omnipotent force. The church can also make mistakes and does. What's important is that they say they've made a mistake, admit it, and apologize for it. The church didn't make the mistake, it was individuals, so it doesn't make sense to me to leave the church.
But Father Dobenek knows his task is to keep young Catholics coming back to the church, even after they've grown out of the youth groups. For him, that means ensuring transparency at every level and holding an open discussion when it comes to sexual abuse in the church.
It has happened before. I'm afraid it's happening now and that it will happen again. But we have to make a fresh start and deal with this issue differently. The church has to take a closer look at people entering the clergy and see how they're wired. And we have to talk about sexuality.
Back at Sunday Mass, church members are receiving communion. Many believers use this ritual as a time to reflect. Father Dobenek would gladly abolish some of the other church traditions, such as celibacy.
I would support voluntary celibacy. I think it's an important value. It makes me more available for my parish and church members. But we have to look at the other side. It can possibly lead to loneliness. And some priests simply can't deal with it. And this can have negative consequences, right down to abuse.
Father Dobenek knows the Vatican has rejected any type of fundamental reform, but he hopes the Church will use the crisis as an opportunity to change for the better.